Hi, I'm Alexa Hampton, and this is 52 Weeks of Design Live on a Saturday. And I am speaking to the lovely Amanda. Here we go, hold on. Amanda Lindroth. I've just asked her to join. Hi, Jackson Hole. Hey. So tomorrow is Greek Easter. Hello, dear. And hi, Dara. Yes, Saturday. Crazy. Hold on, let me see. She might invite to join. Amanda Lynn Roth Design. I'm inviting again. Oh, there you are. Oh, you've got a different. Okay, hang in there. I'm a coming. Okay, so you're Lynn Roth, Amanda, not Amanda Lynn Roth. Lynn Roth. Sorry, guys. It just takes a minute for me, always. Hi.
Oh, am I crooked?
You are sideways.
Alexa, I'm incompetent. That's the real problem.
Now you're upside down. I am there for you in the world of incompetence. Still, there you go.
Am I really straight for you?
Yeah.
That's
perfect.
I'm looking at myself sideways. Hold on.
Are you on an iPad? I know they like changed the format and now I can't use an iPad.
Hold on. I have someone smarter than me here.
No,
Hold on.
I'm not sure that.
Well, anyway, thank you so much for changing this to Saturday.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for putting up with this incredible incompetence on our part.
Are you kidding?
I'm sideways.
I am nothing but.
Okay. Well, we're just going to have to do it the really jokey way, right? But how do I get...
I mean, I can see you perfectly, but yeah, you're a little high on the screen.
Okay,
but I mean,
positions down. How's that?
That's great.
It's so
this way a little bit.
Which way?
But you're truly seeing yourself perfect.
Yeah, let me show you. I'm seeing you also sideways. This is so
hilarious. Well, at least we're both sideways, right?
We're both sideways. How are you, beauty?
Hi. Happy Saturday.
Am I off still?
No, you're perfect.
Okay, good.
You are perfect.
Good.
I'm getting like a beautiful mirror sometimes in the background, beautiful green.
Yeah, I can walk you around my room a little bit here. We're in my living room, and it's a beautiful day in the Bahamas.
Oh, God.
We're in the Bahamas, yeah.
So jealous.
Yeah, there's the Lyford Key Club out the window in the back somewhere, if you can see it. Right.
Hi, Lyford Key Club.
Yeah, it's so funny.
So actually, that is the last time I saw you. You and I were seated together at the. Oh, now it's boobs.
No,
now I see your boobs and only.
No boobs.
Okay, now I see your face. So we were at the Lyford Key Club together during Design Week.
Yeah.
And I had so much fun being with you. What is, I don't know if I remember, if I even asked you, because there was a lot of drinking going on my part that evening. How did you end up in the Bahamas? Are you from the Bahamas?
No, so my first husband and I moved here when we were newlyweds in the late 80s for a year, joined the club, and then with the intention of he was opening an office for his company here. And then we moved to London and he opened an office for his company there for 4 years. We were there 4 years. And then overnight there was some kind of bond run or something. And his boss said, "You're leaving."
I take it. You mean financial bonds?
Yes.
Yeah. Don't even know what that means, but I've heard of them.
Anyway, some dramatic reason that it was really important for him to get offshore again. So we ended up back here. And we have ultimately divorced, but I've been here ever since. I've been here 30 years. So I clearly love living here. I think the joy of living in the Bahamas is that number one, it's a little exotic. And number two, we have this kind of massively consistent amount of interesting people coming and going. You know, our community here, there's a lot of transient members, and everybody's got a story, and everyone's interesting, and they come and they go. So our life is kind of this, it's kind of this, this energetic and kind of diverse kind of happy place where we see lots of people for very short amounts of time a lot. So and, yeah, it's kind of wonderful. Yeah, I mean, in fact,
where did you live before?
I was raised in South Florida, in just south of Palm Beach in Boca Raton, and then went to Wellesley in Boston, and then lived in Paris, and then lived in New York, worked for Women's Wear Daily and W in New York. And then when I was living in London, was the PR director for Gucci under the really nascent new renaissance of Gucci, with Don Mello from Bergdorf's and Pilar my boss, and Tom Ford was there. He was designing menswear at the time. He rose to that very sort of high position, and then obviously the rest is history, right? That whole story. But I was there in very early years, which were really.
Am I right in saying that this is probably the dumbest thing ever, but today, at this moment, thinking about fashion, I think of Tom Ford in that moment, like being the biggest rise of a person in fashion of my lifetime that I can think of.
I feel like you're right. And it all happened in one moment, in one collection.
And you were in the middle of that. I love it. And you're publishing, you're everywhere.
I had left a year before, sort of missed because they had kind of hit rock bottom, and Maurizio got in trouble, and then, you know, he was in trouble with the investors, and then ultimately he, was murdered. But there's a lot going on in those years after I left, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. By the way, I did not see the Gucci movie because I just felt like, first of all, I have a huge crush on Adam Driver, which is great, which would have gotten me there, but then it all just looked a little over the top for me. It seems like it's impossible for anything to be over the top for me, but somehow I was like, I gotta not see that.
Yeah, no, I saw it on an airplane. I loved it. But there's also
was it great? Should I see it?
There's also a documentary. So I went into watching the movie thinking I'd already seen it, and then I was like, this isn't what I've seen. Apparently, there was a Netflix documentary as well. So it was pretty wild time, really. But it's worth seeing.
So when you left Wellesley, what's the path? Because this is very varied.
So I went to Paris in the September after graduating from Wellesley to do a stage at a French bank. I just really wanted to be in Paris, and my parents had 4 children in private school and university. There wasn't like a lot of like, I'll take a gap year kind of talk. You know what I mean? We had to kind of get.
Yeah. I have 3 kids. I get it. I'm like, I got to teach them how to drive to start like Ubering.
Well, right. So I had this little internship in a French bank, and obviously I can't add and subtract from I really can't. I'm incompetent. So I translated and did some things, and just had this complete love affair with Paris, and I was never ever coming home. I was going to be that American girl who lives in Paris the rest of her life. So I applied for a job in the French Bureau of Women's Wear Daily and W Fairchild, and they were coming to interview me during the autumn, during the autumn collections. And the gentleman who was meant to interview, Michael Cody, couldn't come to the thing, and he said, why don't you please come to New York and we'll interview you here. And when I got to New York, they said, we really do have a good job for you here. So I reluctantly moved to New York, and sort of longed for the beauty of Paris, I have to admit. But there wasn't a lot of time, because the job they put me in was to be work on.
Did you know anybody in New York?
Yeah, all of my classmates had gone to New York. It was that typical Ivy League thing where everybody goes to New York the year after they're graduated. I just wanted to do something different. So I got to New York, and yes, I had friends, but there was no time for friends. The job was literally, I was on deadline every day for Women's Wear Daily, for the page that had all the gossip and the parties and all that. And then I was at parties every night with a photographer taking notes and trying to figure it all out. And I was pretty pathetic at that job, but I had no choice, because you're working 80 hours a week at Women's Wear. And so when I left to marry my first husband.
Wait, hold on a second. Besides for the Paris connection, what was your degree in?
It was really a huge liberal arts number: international relations, politics, science, history,
Okay,
political science.
amazing.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
so your interest in WWD, I mean, Women's Wear Daily, whatever,
It was because my
was,
had a connection to get me an interview,
but
and
was it Paris focused or was it journalism as well?
it was Paris focused. Yeah.
Okay, so they
Yeah.
totally baited and switched you.
Yeah.
But did you like writing? I mean, how did you, once you
But,
moved to New York, how are you identifying yourself?
you know, I hit the ground running, and that was such a prestigious job in a way because it was really a hard job. And coming out of women's wear after 3 years,
And it was an institution.
yeah, and everybody knew that you had been run through it. You know what I mean? It was a very, very intense
Mhm.
job.
It's
Um,
kind of like Ralph Lauren for our industry. Like
I
if
think,
somebody worked at Ralph Lauren, you knew like, ooh, they know what they're doing.
yeah, I feel like it's exactly that. And so when I married my first husband, we moved to London. Um, I farted around for a year, did nothing, by the way, and just went to Annabelle's and was completely silly and ridiculous. And we were on a flight coming back from a wedding in Argentina, and the back of the Pan Am seat back pocket had a Manhattan Ink story with a picture of either Don Mello or Maurizio Gucci, likely Maurizio, and his tale of hiring her to come back and resurrect that brand, which was at that time, it was enormously profitable, but it had zero prestige, if you'll recall. It was like
Yeah,
700.
yeah, yeah.
This is in,
It was like the loafers, and otherwise it was
yeah,
a cliche.
exactly. They
And
had
then
open license,
boom.
they had done. So they hired Dawn to do that. Ritzia was very clever. He knew that he wanted to bring it back to the prestige of an Hermes, et cetera. And so it was a tumultuous couple of years while they did that because obviously the company stopped having any sales. And so they were pretty tumultuous. Anyway, I wrote Dawn a letter. I think probably sitting on the airplane, thinking, I just thought it was time to go back to work. I was 26 years old. And I'd had a lot of fun not working, but it was just time. So I wrote Dawn Mello a note, and she said, meet me at the Draycott Hotel next Tuesday at 10 a.m. And I drove my bike there. And she interviewed me and she hired me. And so I got to be the PR director for the UK. I basically knew Dawn had a particularly American way about her. Did you know Dawn at all?
No, I don't think so.
Anyway, she sort of created Bergdorf's under Irene Mark, and that was this. She was the one who pretty much single-handedly discovered all the Italian designers. The French designers were obviously already
Evergreen.
but sort of Armani and Versace and all those guys at that era were sort of in part she was very responsible for some of their early success. Anyway, it was really fun those years. The early years at Gucci were amazing. So she hired me. And I just knew that she was so
Hold on a second.
American experience would help.
What was in your heart when you applied for that job?
I just knew I thought I'd be good at it, and I
You
loved
like,
it.
I want to be a part of this decent thing.
Yes, I want to be a part of this, and especially since it had such an American team they were building a serious American team, and Pilar Crespi, of course, was the most glamorous boss anyone could ever have. She sort of she glides through her work and her life, and she taught me actually a lot about when the chips are down and everybody's fighting in a room. Pilar would go out and have a coffee. Sometimes maybe come back with her hair done. She just was like,
I am down for that.
Right? Yeah. And
So
I was
she
like,
was just like, let them meet each other. I'm going to absent myself and come back and talk to the victor.
yeah. With a beautiful hairdo, maybe, or
Beautiful
yummy
hair.
coffee belly. Yeah. Because there was a fair amount of drama at all of those big meetings in Milan and things. So, but that was such a magical job. And then my husband got transferred back to the Bahamas overnight. So I gave all of that up. I gave London up, which I've always adored. And I sort of have been parked here ever since, but in an extraordinarily happy way. I travel a lot. I get off. Everyone says, "Oh, do you get off the rock?" But I do. But I'm always happy to come back. We live.
And you have a long and rich career in design. So
I do.
when were you like, okay, this is what I'm going to do?
So
Wait, I'm sorry. One more question. How long had you lived in the Bahamas before you went to London? Did you say a year?
a year.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you had your bearings a bit.
I did. I think I would say, and I talk about this a lot, I was decorating when I was 10. So my parents built this house, you know, we were family expanding from 2 children to 4 children. And I talk about this a lot, and so it's boring to those who've heard me say it before. But
I haven't heard it.
my mother was super insanely stylish, like tall and lean like a string bean, and smoked a lot and had a lot of opinions. But she said to my father in 1961, when they moved to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, she said, "We're not rich enough for a mansion in Palm Beach, but I won't live in a terrible Florida ranch house." And she hired a Danish modernist architect, and his name was Paul Robin-John, and he was as beautiful as his name. He was tall and floppy blonde hair and these blue eyes. And she built 2 modern houses, one which our family called the Little House because it was small, and then one that was not an enormous house, but it was bigger for an expanded family. And they were sort of kind of Corbusier, Frank Lloyd Wright, tropical modern houses, and they were good houses.
And where did she get that from?
You know, my mother always had a slightly more modern edged eye than I did. If we went to a lighting store, she would go straight for the modern art lighting, and so she kind of had, she had a kind of modern sort of sensibility, and a very edited sensibility. But she was a woman of extraordinary taste and style, and we were never very rich. So she was careful about what she bought, and there was tons of Knoll furniture in our house, and sort of beautiful modernist. We had Laverne cocktail tables, which was a strange brutalist moment in the 70s.
I love all the
Yeah, so that I grew up in this glass house with 11 flat roofs that all leaked. Basically, they all leaked. Having a flat roof in a tropical climate is really a terrible idea, but it was very, very beautiful.
I'm not kidding you, and this is a weird thing to long for. I long for a flat roof.
Because
I just think it's beautiful. I one day want to have a flat roofed house, and I remember a million people telling me over my life, like, that's a really bad idea.
Well, I mean, when you look at beautiful modernism, the most elemental, I mean, I always say that the good modernist architects can't do it unless they've had classical training, because it's all the same math. You know what I mean? To make everything look beautiful in life. But the house is in Boca Raton, Florida, which was largely built early on by Meisner in the 20s. And so there's a Mediterranean revival. There were a few of the good architects from Palm Beach who came down there and did 1 or 2 houses, but it's pretty suburban and modern, pretty 60s. Our house is the only modern house on what they call their designated list of important buildings in the whole town. So the house I grew up in. So that's kind of, I mean, I always loved to give my mother enormous, and father, a lot of praise for that, for those decisions they made, because so when they built that house, I was 10, and I made my mother a mood board of what I wanted my room to look like. So I always go back to thinking, when someone says, when did you start decorating? I only started decorating professionally in my 30s or 40s. But I had it on my mind, and I certainly had it on my mind in London. But Alexis, I'm much older than you are, but we weren't allowed to become decorators out of college. I wasn't. You know, that was like your mother's forced friend did it. You were supposed to go to.
That's a now.
Yeah, it's a now thing that we're like. I mean, I tell Eliza, whatever you think you want to do, I'm going to endorse that now. But, we were sort of thought, I remember my mother dragged me down to meet the dean of the University of Miami's law school. I can't keep a secret. How would I be a lawyer? You know what I mean?
I am, as a parent of children who have yet to get to the age where they're going to have to make those decisions, I obviously think about this all the time. What I want, I want to encourage them to feel like they can do anything. And of course, they're, annoyingly confident American children. But at the same time, you do want to say to them, which is I'm sure why you didn't want to go into design right after college. I do want to say to them, and I do say to them, you can do anything in the world that you like, but you have to support yourself.
Yeah.
And that's why so many people don't go on into it immediately, because it
takes a minute to I mean, I have a 16-and-a-half-year-old, and I sort of say to her, she has an impeccable eye. So, when she was 5 years old, she'd walk down the street and be able to point out the good houses. And I thought, well, this is good. So we've got that in the bag. So that's always going to be, that could be your default. But at first in your 20s, I might, encourage her to be, she's extraordinarily empathetic and she's curious. And those are great qualities for journalists. I might encourage her to, I don't know, I bought her the book on Clarissa Ward, because I think Clarissa Ward's like a CNN lady in her flak jacket, marching around in, Afghanistan and jumping out of helicopters.
Is that something she has expressed any interest in, or you just like jump out of a helicopter and write about it?
I think she's in school in England. She's doing GCSEs, which are these intense exams this spring.
My daughter is going to school in England in the fall.
Which one?
She's going to school in England in the fall.
Your daughter?
Right, for 8th grade.
Fantastic. Where's she going?
She's going, I'm not going to say it on this, but she's going to, I'll be dirty, I'll say anything about myself, but if I say anything about my children, they'll kill me. But she's going to school in York.
Oh, fantastic. Eliza's in Oxfordshire, in boarding school. That's great. And she went in, so Eliza's effectively in 10th grade. She's been there 5 years. She's been there for a long time. She went when she was 11 or 12. So
yeah.
Yeah. You already done all that research, et cetera, but you're going to love it. Yeah.
I already, and we're going far afield. We need to get back to you and design. But yeah, the curriculum seems super exciting. And I have always been very influenced by, I guess maybe everybody thought my father was such an Anglophile that it made me much more interested in the continent. So I'm going to enjoy going to see her and really getting to know London and England better. So you're in the Bahamas, you've moved there all of a sudden. How long into your second time there did you figure this out? And how did you figure it out?
So I started, my second husband is a property developer. And I started doing things for him, and then friends would ask me to do things. And then all of a sudden, you kind of like all of a sudden have a proper business. Do you know what I mean? And I'm super self-taught. So there are still areas we have a joke, we use a very good upholsterer in New York, and Alex Pepper-Castidis is a good friend of yours. It also uses, it's Jose Quintana. And for the first 5 years that Quintana would phone our office, everyone would cringe because he would ask us questions that we didn't even know what they were. He'd use some upholstery technical terms. So our stock answer was, what would Alex Pepper-Castidis do?
Oh, that's great.
We giggled, but I'm sort of self-taught. And so I've also been sort of self-taught myself the process of running an office and how the systems we use and how we communicate both the creative side and the very important business side to our clients, and how we run those operations. And it's been a giant learning curve. And I'm
what are some of the choices that you've made? Because as somebody who inherited, for all intents, a structure, the structure existed.
Yeah.
There's some things that I was able to change as I saw fit, but there are other things that I never even thought about from the ground level.
Yeah.
So what choices did you?
So I think that's a really good question, because we certainly did it the hard, struggling way, starting without any structure and experience at all. So
it's organic as well. There's a method to it, doing that.
And working here in the islands, we also have to add in this extraordinary level of logistics and the expense that goes with the logistics and all that. So, I mean, any advice I would give to someone who's, pioneering their way through something without having had any formal experience like I did, is that you start with people who know more than you do. You know what I mean? Like, you start with a really bona fide, qualified accountant in your office who can bring that level of experience there, because
and trust.
And also, and trust, and know where your failings are. I always say that when our office is faced with, like, for example, we're on a magic carpet right now. There are a lot of people moving to the Southeast. We have a lot of work, and I say to my team, let's try and take this work, but we have to figure out where are we weak, and if we need some clerical help to help the girls pushing their projects back into QuickBooks and all that stuff. Let's get that help so that they can have more time on design and more time in front facing their clients and doing research, frankly. I think it's really funny because the advent of these Zoom and these electronic meetings, we've always done them because we've been living in the Bahamas and our clients aren't here. So we were in meetings for decades, for a decade at least, or maybe longer. But we're so lucky to have those, because the idea that we can have our architects, maybe one in Palm Beach, same office, one in New York, on a Zoom call with our clients who maybe are in Connecticut, with us on a team, maybe one of my members, Aldous is in Charleston, I'm here, Jackie's in Palm Beach, that we're all on there and we can draw. Like we're all emailing each other inspiration photographs and they're going popping up on the screen. Oh, how about this? And a 2-hour call I get off of them and I'm sort of high as a kite with joy because they've accomplished so much. You know, we had one the other day. We were, when you come out of those meetings and all of the cylinders are firing at the same time, it's pretty fantastic. And also the other thing about our jobs is that I don't know how to use CAD. I barely know how to use, I can barely use this. If you saw this thing sideways, you can realize how pathetic I am.
I'm equally pathetic.
It's great to have these young kids coming out of design school with Revit and CAD and all of these
skills.
Yeah, these skills.
Yeah.
Because we can create these, really charming and thorough presentations that, that before they were sort of a tear sheet out of a magazine, and I don't know. So anyway,
So yeah, what did you do before everything was, you were doing these Zoom calls or whatever you called them at that. I guess they were. Yeah. I forget what that other app was.
We were doing GoTo meeting.
What about the decade before that?
I think we were pathetic. I think we must have been awful.
I mean, how were you doing it? How were you even organizing yourself? Like, give me an example of, we all know how tough a logistical thing is, and you're kind of in the opposite. Yeah. You're at the destination.
Yeah.
I'm used to being in New York and shipping to the destination, but you need to get everything shipped to you. What did it look like before all of these pathways were created?
Well, the logistics side is still very, it's a very cumbersome process for us. And we have a warehouse in Florida that we've used for 15 years, and they consolidate and measure and inspect and give everything its own kind of identities, numbers. So we have these running inventories of what's in our things, and then my girls will do these incredible load lists, and whether they're loading a container or they're loading airplane, because we have to have such extraordinary documentation for customs and for the extraordinary amount of duty we pay here. It also takes a very robust amount of paperwork, and we actually, I actually like getting old. I don't mind it at all, because your standards continue to improve at all times. Like, we have a wonderful reputation in this country of paying the duty and being conscientious that the paperwork is perfect. And I'm proud of it. We really care.
And
when we make mistakes, I think it's another thing about getting old, is that the more accountable you become. Like, okay, so that didn't work out. The real thing now is, how are we going to fix it?
Yeah.
Right?
So this is really interesting, because what you just said right now, and then what you said before about, like, oh, when we don't know something, we want to blah, blah, blah. There's a running theme there, which is that you know what you don't know, or you're open to embracing the fact that you don't know something, and if something goes awry, to fixing it. And I am completely with you in this. And I think that because of our culture, or the litigious culture of,
this moment in time, or the last many, many years, people have forgotten how to say, I don't know. And they've forgotten how to say, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And those are huge.
Well, I think that, this isn't just for decorating, but in general, people live in fear. They're so afraid of the consequences of a mistake. And the fact is the word I'm sorry is the best word in the world, because it completely levels the playing field. We've made a mistake. This is our error, and we're going to fix it. Because our decorating, these are very elaborate, and they're enormous.
Yeah, there's a minefield for us wherever we turn.
Yeah. Our particular good one this year is bar stools. We got the height wrong. I don't know. It's like there's some.
Oh, God. No. Every designer who will watch this or hear this, or anybody for that matter, knows exactly what you're
Yeah.
Counter height versus bar height, like whatever you think it is the other one.
Yeah, and ours are always from sewn when this happens.
Oh my God, I know exactly. I've just ordered those for a client. The Clismos with the curved back.
That's it. Yeah,
So,
double check the measurements.
are amazing. Okay, so we've talked a lot about like the logistical. How did you get here? Let's talk a little bit about your style and how you figure it out, and how do you tease out the style of the people with whom
Yeah.
you're.
You know, Alexa, I find that actually the hardest part of the job. That's where sometimes my, you know, when writers talk about writer's block, at the very beginning when I'm trying to tease out, that's a good way of putting it. The kind of like, you know, I always say to our clients, we're going to send you a mood board that has a lot of different lanes in it because they're all beautiful. And so,
There's
we
more
don't,
than one answer.
yeah, we don't get our feelings hurt. We're just going to try and get to know you through images. My late husband always said in architecture, when he was doing property developments, all of the answers come out in the drawings. So in other words, if you have he loved to go to have these design charrettes where the architects draw all day, they get instructions, and at the end of the day, all the drawings go up on the board, and everyone analyzes them, and they figure out what's working and what's not working with this incredibly collaborative and sort of uplifting process. In a kind of minor way, that's what we do when we're starting to look at a client. We'll meet the client, and clients also reveal a lot about themselves in spoken words and in non-spoken words. I mean, a person, where their temperament, the way they dress, the way they chat, you can learn a lot about. I mean, I can actually take those cues and sort of figure out what I think might work, and then we give them sort of a lot of pictures and images, and then that sort of conceptual discussion, et cetera, we start to get to know them a little. And then we work with a really basic old-fashioned whatever, and it's not called an app something, but it's called Keynote, and we put our presentations are in Keynote, and they'll follow the job from the beginning to the end and just be updated as they go along. So the early keynotes might be all imagery and blah-de-da, but eventually there'll be a drawing of a room, and it'll have the CAD furniture plan in there that we've all discussed and sort of you know, massage to get it to where we think is correct with the client. And then we start to add the pieces. We're like, wow, what about these four sofas? Do you like these shapes? La-di-da-di-da. How about this mirror? How about this? And then that process, you know, sometimes it's entirely collaborative with the client, depending on how you know, we've got clients right now that they're so knowledgeable and have such great taste. We have one client right now we're doing a few projects in Florida with. The design meetings are so fun because she's experienced and she's like, let's try that. Oh, I saw that lamp. And so we had one the other day. It was just so uplifting. By the end of it, we were like, God, this is going to be great. And then sometimes we do them ourselves. More often than not, we do them ourselves and present them to the client. And they say, actually, I have a scroll back sofa in my, you know, apartment in Manhattan. I don't want it, but I'd like a little more modern piece in my house in Windsor. You know what I mean? And that's a really fun process. And then and then we get to the finish line somehow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just went to a job site this morning and I saw the homeowner, and he was looking around, and he looked at me, and he's pretty much, you know, he's dealing with his construction people. So I came in and he was like, how are they going to get it ready? And I was like, do you need a hug? That's like, I know what you're feeling. Like, come here, come on in for a hug. It'll
Yeah. And I'm sure you're the same way. We move heaven and earth to make our clients happy. This is an expensive.
It's our personalities. We obviously want that for ourselves. We want to, you know, it enriches us. You kept saying uplifting, and that's such a beautiful way to describe it.
Well, and here's the thing: is that especially here in the islands, where we, you know, I'm doing an enormous amount of work in America, in the States now, but it used to be pretty much always here. But the logistics of what we do is really hard. I mean, something comes broken, something comes damaged. That's just it. You've already paid the duty. There's no, I mean, you don't have. It's sort of, you just take it off the bill. You know, we have Yeah, it's not that easy. So I always say to the girls in my office, what we do is hard. It better be legendary, right? We want nothing short of a legendary project each time. I want to crush it because
Yeah.
it's not easy to do. So let's not aim for mediocre.
So, oh my God, no. So, I mean, what could be more sad than
Yeah.
for mediocre? But
Yeah.
so you really love to like get in there and hype yourself up, and I totally agree with that. What is it? I mean, I know you're saying everything is legendary. What is an example of one of the projects in your past, and it can be your own house, that you look at and you go, yeah, it's legendary?
Oh God, I don't think I could single one out, but we just
No,
finished.
I'm assuming they're all that way, but give me
No, but
of what.
we finished a house just before that heinous Hurricane Dorian for just the most magical clients in the universe in the northern Bahamas in Abaco. And that was one of those, we're doing a house for them in San Francisco right now. And it's the magic carpet. It's the dream, impeccable client with taste and joy in their heart and wants the project to be full of love and happiness and generosity, and then the magical talent of the great architect. And then, we get to bask in all of that. Do you know what I mean? Like every meeting is just sort of uplifting and fun, and great ideas are thrown around, and largely they say, let's do them. It's really, so that's a very recent one, but funny, we had to do some.
But was it knocked over? Was it destroyed?
It did very well. It did very, very well. It was a compliment to the precision of the architect and the homeowner's diligence at making sure everybody, like the team really, it was not knocked over. It had the least damage of many houses. It had some damage there were a few punch list items on the thing. There was some weather stripping missing on one door, so we lost the wood floor in that area. But it did really well. It did. Yeah.
The idea of, I mean, I had a house get massively hurt by Katrina, but the idea of working in a sphere where that is a major and constant concern. Must be, and you live there as well. It's not just a thought. It's not academic. It's your life.
Well, and I think
very
something that we all talk about when we're working with clients in the very beginning of projects is that all architects are not created equal. All builders are not created equal. All engineering drawings aren't created equal. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it right, because these houses can very well withstand these storms if they're built properly. They really can.
Wow.
So you might as well be sure that you've got the hurricane clips and the assembly of a roof. I mean, I'm a decorator, so I have no idea why I'm talking about this, but every part of it matters. How many times they nail that plywood to that thing? It has to be every 2 inches. The ice and water shield has to be put on properly, and the hurricane clips have to be engineered in a certain way. All of those little tiny elements will give you a house that can really, really do well in these storms.
Claims not to know any of that. I'm very
Sorry.
For someone who claims not to know any of that, I'm very impressed by that litany of requirements.
Yeah.
So my dog is
beautiful.
Looking at me with accusing eyes.
Oh, look at that lovely, lovely little thing, huh?
He's a little.
Actually, where are you?
I'm in the Hamptons. It's
nice.
Greek Easter tomorrow, so we are having a fun Greek Easter. Yeah.
All the lovely. Yeah, there's a lot of. Lyford is always nice at this time of year because the Greek members all come for Easter here.
So my father, I have a scrapbook of my mother, hugely pregnant in Lyford, and it says, first known picture of Alexa. So my father had beloved clients who were from Louisiana, from New Orleans, and they had a house in
best house.
What?
The best house, L'Orangerie.
Mm-hmm. And because of that lovely relationship, they were so generous, and they invited us to spend spring break with them every year till till I think I turned 13. So I,
In that glorious house.
but also I just get the magic of that place.
Yeah.
And I'm such a city person that, you know, I don't, there's a lot I don't get, but that I get. So I'm very happy you live in such a beautiful place. But it means right now you're always on a plane, right?
I'm on a plane a lot. Yeah, I'm going to try and work on that. I'm not sure how to fix that um, because I just feel so joyful and so completely blessed to have all this lovely work.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
I mean,
not doing good right now. Yeah. How big is your team?
it's pretty big. So I have my little side hustle, which is the Amanda Lindroth, all of the items we sell and manufacture,
Oh,
which
yeah.
are in our stores in Palm Beach and in Charleston and online. We were
Yes.
frantically
You mean product?
Jennifer Long to try to figure out how to get us on the right account. Bless her heart, she's put up with all of my incompetence at technology, but and she's doing a beautiful job running that company. So that company probably has, including some retail, maybe 10 or 12. It's a very lean little team that runs that so beautifully. And then on decorating, I think we're sort of 3 or 4 in Charleston, 2 or 3 in Palm Beach, and 10 or 12 and 13 in Nassau.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
What, you just sound like you were born with the entrepreneurial bug. Is that even what I meant?
I think
you were bitten more by the bug.
Yeah, I think it's more fear of poverty.
Well, no, I mean that I consider fear a huge driver myself.
Yeah.
I get. I mean, it goes back to what I want to say to my kids is you got to support yourself, and yes, you have to make ends meet, but but you must love this learning curve because it sounds like you're just constantly doing new things. Starting off in the Bahamas, then going, East Coast. Now you're in San Francisco. Now you've got other offices and you've got product. That's thrilling.
Yeah, it is thrilling, by the way. I just feel extremely blessed. I think the weird thing about getting older is that if you continuously hit the gratitude and the happy button and optimism, like it really, like the secret's out. It actually works. You know what I mean? Like the less grumpy and whiny and miserable you are in life, the better. It actually,
I agree with you. I think if when people what?
I said people always tell you that when you're younger that you attract all this stuff. It actually is true. So try to stay optimistic. There's nothing that we can't overcome. Mistakes happen. We just have to. I mean, I literally sometimes I have a problem and I don't know how to do it. I just am like, okay, let's dissect it. Let's just dissect it and figure out what we can sort out and what we have to get some help with because
it's figure outable.
Well, and hiding. I want to continue to do well, and the only way to do that is to continue to tackle the problems one at a time to see that you can get through them. So and to be conscientious of not making so many errors, right? Right.
What are your major design influences or just your loves? What are the things that?
Well, I think I'm a particular, like, sort of, I hate to use the word scholar. It makes it sound like so pretentious. I don't mean
I
that.
love it. Let's do it.
I like classical architecture. I like beautifully proportioned rooms. I sometimes think they don't actually really need much decorating. You know what I mean? Like
the better the structure, the less artifice you need to throw at it.
Precisely. So I think my influences are really all the sort of really the classical. I love to look at David Adler and Francis Elkins and that whole sort of era of the 20th century good houses that were built. And then, I was invited to that de Gournay party at Houghton Hall.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so if I had any real time, I'd be tromping around the English countryside with you. Maybe we can do that sometime.
I feel that we can. I feel like if I have to be there, I need to fold in some.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, inspiration should be part of our job.
Yeah. And I think, because I talk about this a lot, I'm, aside from the American projects, but in a lot of them too, I'm decorating for people who are at leisure. They're people who are on a holiday, on a vacation. And I always talk about the fact that we all in our lives spend a huge amount of our time in our fantasy life. So if Eliza and I are going to go off to somewhere exotic this summer, I'm going to dream about it a lot in advance. I'm going to think, wow, maybe my hair will have no humidity and I'll walk with a different.
Maybe. Maybe
what will
not.
I wear? Will I have a stag? Well, will I be awesome? And I think people do that. So I always tell our offices and and clients sometimes that we don't want to disappoint you when you get to that house in the Bahamas for that visit that you've anticipated. You want the doors to be flung over, the music to be on. You want the bedrooms to be full of romance. And I'm not discussing something sleazy there. I'm saying crispy sheets that someone has cared about.
Yeah.
You want the houses to have this feeling that they're loved, and that, we have a list in our office of what that means. It's, watercrafts and put notepads and pencils on the night tables and fresh magazines and current novels and things like that we really think are critical to the success of these endeavors that we're working.
Experiences. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I suppose that's what it is actually, Alexa, is that you're trying to decorate a house, but you're also creating an experience. And I just remember the very first time I went to Jamaica. I was young, and when we got to the house, the staff was lined up in the driveway. It makes me sound so pretentious, but they had fresh lunch made, and the table was laid, and the flowers were on, and the beds were turned down. And I think maybe it was one of those most important little impressions that I had, that is I carry through here in these island houses I'm doing, is that I think, we really want people to have a wow moment when they get there. They need to be dazzled. If we're going to do it, we might as well dazzle them, right?
Right.
That's what you do.
On my honeymoon, I asked, for the most part, my husband made the decisions of where we were staying, but we were going to Venice, and I did say to him, I'm a gritty girl, so we have to stay at the Gritty. And I think at one point he said to me, he grumbled prior to, like, oh, do you have any idea what that costs? And I was like, no, nor should I. And we got there, and I think he sent out some of his laundry, and it came back in the basket lined with the beautiful ticking stripe or the check or whatever it was, and his beautifully ironed whatever undershirts. And he just took one look at that, and he's like, maybe we should stay here longer.
Yeah.
And it's what you're saying. It's that romance of like, it's maybe if you tried to live that way all the time, it would feel
forced. Yeah.
Or just like impossible to get there, because it's so much effort and so many people involved in it. But especially if it's a second house, or as you're saying, like a destination, you can dream of having those moments that are like no other.
Yeah. I think isn't that interesting that basket of that fresh, beautifully smelling, crispy.
He does like an iron. I mean, he needs all of his t-shirts are ironed. Heaven forfend.
Right on.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just that basket. Tell me about your house.
So my house is a house that was designed by a Czech architect who was a classicist who came to the Bahamas in the 1950s. And he did a lot of the good houses in Lyford Key and outside of the gates as well, also in Jamaica. And we're all really lucky because an amazing book, spearheaded by his very chic daughter, Tanya Melick, is coming out from Rizzoli on his architecture. And I weirdly got I saw a little galley of it, and I think it's the best tropical architecture book in decades. It's so beautifully well, first of all, the architecture is amazing, but it's very, very beautifully art directed. I got like a 10-minute look at it, and I was like, I just fainted. So I think it comes out in June. Anyway, he designed this house for an American socialite called Hopi Simpson, a great lady from Locust Valley.
Such great names like that. Babe, Hopi, Slim, Oatsy,
I know. And so we bought it from her after she decided, I think she was just, it was time. And we did a year and a half renovation with our architects from Miami, Maria de la Guardia and Teofilo Victoria. So we took it right. It had been built in 1980, and so it had some it had some. She was such a lady that, and it was a weird time in the Bahamas to get materials, and so it had sliding glass doors and hollow core interior doors and bathroom tiles. She was so chic that it didn't matter. You know what I mean? Like the proportions, the proportions of the house were perfect. So we added, because it's our 12-month-a-year house, we added all the bells and whistles, all the wood shutters and wood ceilings and Coralina walls and wood floors and, raised all the door heights. We did a lot of work to it. And it's sort of just the most, it's a dreamy house. We really live on the veranda. The whole sort of DNA of my ALC brand is really the life on the veranda at Hope Hill. Because we eat all our meals there and we sort of giggle and laugh and have, a lot of parties there. So, this house is a very happy house, and it's very often filled with house guests. So, and I like it that way. So I feel like if we're going to have the privilege of having these houses, we might as well live in them properly.
Totally. Somebody's asking you to repeat the name of the new book.
So the architect is called Henry, Henry Melick, Melich. And I believe the book is called Island Follies, Follies. And they have an Instagram page to give all of us a little taste of the book. I think it's Island Follies as well. And it's just the most magically beautiful book. So we're really excited for Tanya and for Henry to be recognized as this sort of, he was sort of we all know he is here, but I think this will really be a wonderful sort of tribute to him. His architecture felt very similar to the cottage style architecture that John Volk did, for example, at John's Island and in Lost Tree. Not John's Island.
My father did one of those houses in Palm Beach.
A Melick house.
No.
Or Volk house.
Volk house.
Oh, the house, the L'Orangerie house here that you stayed in all those years. The owners of it now asked me to freshen it up a bit. And of course, we didn't touch your father's furniture plan.
The owners are old family friends.
Right?
The new ones. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. They're fantastic. They're so charming.
What's the greatest thing about living in the Bahamas besides everything?
I actually think it has to do with the friends we have here, the people who come and go. I'd have to say that. And the sort of the stature of having the Lightford Key Club, which is literally at 12 o'clock across the golf course from my house. I live up on the hill opposite. It's very nice to have that beautiful place to go. And, I've been accused by someone really smart of enjoying being a big fish in a little pond. And I had to giggle because I think it's true.
I'm offended.
I don't know. Like my daughter Eliza, she's kind of like a celebrity here because she's also now 5'10". So when she comes back, the whole world's like, my goodness, what happened? But you're raised in a place as enchanting as this, hopefully with a joy and a smile on your face and good manners. She was like, we had to get her to boarding school. I was like, this, you've outgrown it here a little bit,
It's interesting, these words that keep coming out of your mouth, like, that you're feeling uplifted and enchantment and legendary. It's all so hopeful.
Well, that's so kind. Yeah,
hopeful,
I think,
and ambitious in all the right ways.
My best friend John Fonda says that hope is his favorite word. It's such a good word, and my house is named after the previous owner. But so, we all have so many blessings. We got to watch the television and see what's going on in the world. That if you don't approach your day starting out with a bit of gratitude, you've got to screw loose. I think we are. We're living in awkward times, and we're fortunate, and that's a blessing.
Absolutely.
And there's luck in that too. So, say thanks to that, right?
Thank you so much for talking to me. I could, I just could pick your brain for forever.
Can you pop on a plane and come and visit me? I know you've got, how many children do you have?
3.
And
they actually, hilarious recently, they're like, we really need to go. I don't even think my daughter's been to Lightford, but the boys have. And
And they're like, we need to go back. And I was like, yeah. I was like,
Is
that's
so much
like,
faster.
but
When is it?
they have the best pina coladas in the
I think
world.
is it time for that? Almost, right?
Almost. Yeah, I got some rancid pina colada mix actually in the kitchen, and it's terrible. The secret of the Lyford Key pina colada is condensed milk.
Oh, very healthy.
Yeah, right? Of course I love it. I mean, if they could stuff a loaf of bread, that's the only thing that could make me love it more.
So Alexa, let's count on having a pina colada together here soon.
Before we go to London.
Yeah, and I'll meet you in London because we'll
Yeah,
have
we just gotta I gotta start doing house
holiday.
tours again. I haven't
Yeah.
I haven't done it in a long time. So I gotta do that.
And we could drag Aldous Bertram, who's the country house expert who works with us in Charleston. We'll get Aldous to take us, so we'll have a giggle.
Are you involved with the ICAA?
So I was the judge, believe it or not, for the Meisner ones last year. I shouldn't even giggle about that. It was the dean of Notre Dame and me.
Yeah,
And George Sanchez, so they tolerated me. Anyway, so, and my husband won a bunch of them over the years, the Meisner, which is the Florida chapter.
Yeah.
I'd like to be more involved. I know that all of those trips they go on, et cetera, are incredible. And Peter Lydon and all these things. I'm obsessively involved in as much as I follow all the Instagram goings on. I don't have any extra time lately.
I get it. I get it.
You know, I try to get to London about every 6 weeks to see Eliza on her X yachts, which is the English made.
You do that? You go because that's what I'm looking at. I'm like,
you know what? Everyone says, doesn't it make you tired? I'm like, well, you're not actually flying the plane. You get on, you watch a movie, you sleep.
Yeah.
You have 2 magical days with your child and you fly back. It's actually not that hard. It's actually so exciting. Yeah. So we'll do it together. Yeah. And then we can march. You'll be marching around the King's Road at Brandy Melville with your daughter, right?
Totally. Yes, you got that on the nose.
Going to Covent Garden, go to the Glossier store, and going to.
No, we're not there. We're not at Glossier yet, but Brandy Melville, like, where did that come from? I kept calling it Brandy Glanville, like the Real Housewives. So yeah, it's taken me a minute. All right, I have to let you go. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was so much fun, and you've just put me in. I was really tired earlier. Now I'm like perked up and happy, and that's all because of you.
No, you're so kind to say that. What a great blessing to be on your fantastic podcast, and I can't wait to see you soon.
Kisses. We are going to do that. We're going to do our training.
Okay.
I don't even. Oh, there we go.